Following the capture of Acre in July 1191, King Richard I of England understood that the next vital step in his campaign was to seize the port of Jaffa. Control of Jaffa would provide a strong coastal base and a gateway for any future attempt to reclaim Jerusalem. With this strategic goal in mind, Richard began moving his Crusader armies southward along the Mediterranean coast in August.
Saladin, determined to prevent the fall of Jerusalem into Crusader hands, mobilized his forces to halt Richard's advance. The Crusader army's progress was methodical. Richard, a master of logistics, ensured his men were not exposed to unnecessary risks. The Egyptian fleet, once a threat, had been neutralized during the siege of Acre, which allowed Richard to move his forces with the sea guarding their flank. Having learned from the disastrous defeat at Hattin, Richard knew the biggest dangers facing his army were thirst and heat exhaustion. He opted for short morning marches and made sure to rest frequently near water sources. His supply ships followed the coast in support, carrying provisions and offering refuge for the wounded. Richard also kept his forces tightly packed to prevent ambushes from Saladin's raiders. Throughout the march, the Crusaders were constantly harassed by Saladin's light cavalry and archers. The Muslim chronicler Baha ad-Din, an eyewitness to these events, described how Muslim skirmishers loosed arrows to provoke the Crusaders into disorder. But Richard's discipline held firm. The men resisted the temptation to break formation and charged only when necessary. Baha ad-Din observed Crusader infantry with arrows stuck in their armor, continuing onward undeterred, while their powerful crossbows struck down Muslim horsemen with devastating accuracy. The Crusaders' pace was dictated by their foot soldiers and baggage train, whereas Saladin's mounted troops held greater mobility. Attempts to destroy the countryside and deny supplies to Richard's army failed, as the fleet kept the Crusaders well provisioned. From August 26th to 29th, Richard's army marched unopposed, while Saladin maneuvered inland through Caesarea, seeking to intercept them. From August 30th to September 7th, Saladin shadowed the Crusaders, waiting for an opportunity to strike. That chance finally came when the Crusaders approached the forest of Arsuf, a rare wooded region near the coast. The dense forest provided perfect cover for Saladin's army to prepare an ambush. On September 6th, the Crusaders camped at the mouth of the Nahr el-Fali River. Saladin had assembled a force estimated at 25,000 men, mostly cavalry. Richard's force numbered about 10,000 infantry and 1,200 heavy cavalry. vanguard of the Crusader army was led by the Knights Templar under Robert de Sablé, while the rear was guarded by the Knights Hospitaller under Garnier de Nablus. The attack came after the Crusader army had broken camp and was marching toward Arsuf. Saladin's forces, including Sudanese foot archers and Turkish horse archers, burst from the forest, unleashing a hail of arrows and javelins. Though the Crusader crossbowmen returned fire, the pressure on the rear grew intense. Saladin personally joined the fight, accompanied by his pages and spare horses. His brother also encouraged the troops, exposing both to Crusader fire. Despite the ferocity of the attacks, Richard kept his troops in line, determined not to allow disorder. His strategy was clear. Wait until Saladin's forces were deeply committed and fatigued before launching a decisive counterattack. As the heat and pressure mounted, Garnier de Nablus pleaded with Richard to allow the Hospitallers to charge, but was initially refused. Finally, either from desperation or a delegated order, the marshal and a knight from Richard's household broke formation and charged into the Saracen ranks, shouting, "St. George!" They were soon joined by the Hospitallers and nearby French knights. Recognizing the breakout, Richard ordered the full signal for a general charge, 6 trumpet blasts. The entire Crusader line surged forward, driving into Saladin's now engaged forces. The sudden switch from defensive endurance to aggressive assault caught the Muslim army off guard, as noted by Baha ad-Din. Some of Saladin's cavalry had even dismounted to fire more effectively, which left them vulnerable to the Crusader onslaught. Though Saladin's army tried to regroup, the momentum was lost. His troops began to scatter, turning the battle into a full rout. Richard, understanding the danger of chasing too far and too fast, halted his cavalry after 1.5 kilometers. Nonetheless, some of Saladin's troops rallied under his nephew, Taqi ad-Din, and attacked Richard's flank, only to be driven back by another Crusader countercharge. The Muslim forces attempted one last assault, but were repelled completely, retreating into the hills. The battle was over. Estimates suggest that while Richard's forces lost around 700 men, Saladin's army may have suffered up to 7,000 casualties. Though Saladin's army wasn't entirely destroyed, the defeat was significant and humiliating. Richard's victory at Arsuf lifted Crusader morale and forced Saladin to abandon or demolish many fortresses across southern Palestine. While Jerusalem remained in Muslim hands, Richard's campaign ultimately led to the Treaty of Jaffa, a 3-year truce that allowed Christian pilgrims access to Jerusalem and secured Crusader control of the coastline as far south as Jaffa. Exhausted by the long campaign, both sides recognized the need for a pause. Richard would soon return to Europe to defend his lands from King Philip of France, while the Holy Land remained scarred by the fierce struggle between Cross and Crescent.